Ethan had been riding since early morning, following the narrow path that wound between rocky hills and quiet stretches of dry land. The sun was still low, spreading soft light across the plains, and the wind carried the sharp smell of creosote bushes. It seemed like an ordinary day for him, the kind he had lived hundreds of times. But that morning, as his horse slowed near a bend in the trail, he noticed something unusual. A shape lay half hidden near a fallen log, almost blending in with the dirt and the shadow. Ethan stopped his horse and looked carefully, trying to understand what he was seeing. Then he saw a hand move slightly. He got down quickly and stepped closer. The figure belonged to a young Apache woman. Her long dark hair was messy with dust, and her dress was torn near the hem. One of her ankle beads was broken, the tiny pieces scattered in the dirt. She looked exhausted, the kind of tired that came from traveling with pain for too long. When she lifted her head, her eyes were dull with weakness. But there was still a spark in them, fear mixed with determination. Ethan spoke softly, trying not to startle her. "Ma'am, are you hurt? Do you need help?" At first she did not answer, only stared at him with wide guarded eyes. Ethan knew enough about life near the border that he did not move too fast. People who had been through hardship often reacted strongly when someone came too close. So he stayed a few steps away and knelt down so he would not appear threatening. His voice stayed calm, almost gentle. She finally whispered something, her voice rough, like she had not spoken in hours. "My ankle." He looked at it and saw swelling around the bone. It was not broken, but it looked painful. She must have stepped wrong or fallen somewhere along the trail. Without treatment, the swelling would get worse. Ethan took off his glove and slowly reached for the small water skin at his belt. "I have water," he said quietly. "You look like you need some." She hesitated, then nodded. When Ethan handed it to her, she took the water with shaking hands and drank carefully. After a few sips, she lowered it and stared at the ground. Ethan saw how she avoided looking directly at him, how her shoulders stayed tense, as if expecting something bad to happen. He asked softly, "What's your name?" "Tala," she said after a moment. "I'm Ethan," he replied. "I'm a rancher. I live not far from here. I can help you walk to my place. You can rest, and I can take a look at that ankle." She looked alarmed at the idea. Ethan could see it in her eyes, the fear of going somewhere strange, the fear of trusting a stranger. She pulled the torn part of her dress closer, as if trying to protect herself from the world. Ethan immediately took a small step back so she would not feel pressured. "You don't have to come with me," he said gently. "But it's a long walk to anywhere. You shouldn't stay out here injured." For a long moment, Tala did not speak. She looked away toward the open land, as if searching for a direction she no longer had the strength to follow. The morning breeze lifted the corner of her hair, revealing a bruise on her temple not deep, but old enough to show she had gone through something difficult before Ethan found her. Finally, she whispered, I don't want to go back." Ethan did not ask why. Some people carried histories too heavy to talk about in the first hour of knowing someone. He simply said, "Then you can rest at my place until you're ready to decide what to do next." Tala looked at him again, and her eyes softened just a little, as if she did not fully believe him, but wanted to. Ethan offered his hand for support. She stared at it for a moment, then slowly reached out. Her fingers were cold and trembling. When he helped her stand, she winced from the pain in her ankle, but tried not to show it. Ethan noticed anyway. He supported her gently, guiding her to his horse. When they reached the horse, Tala froze. "I can't climb," she said, embarrassed. Ethan shook his head. "It's all right. I'll help you." She looked at him deeply then, like she was trying to understand who he was. Her voice suddenly broke in a way that surprised even her. "No one has ever touched me kindly. I don't know how to trust it." Ethan felt something shift in the air. Her words were not about anything improper. They were about pain years of being alone, forgotten, misunderstood. Words like those came from a heart that had never known comfort or safety. She was asking for help in the only way she understood directly, honestly, and with fear hidden beneath courage. He spoke softly, "I'm just trying to help you get home safe. Nothing else." Her breath shook. "Can you please help me, Cowboy? I don't know what to do. No one ever helps me." Ethan nodded. I'll help. You're safe. He lifted her carefully onto the horse, making sure not to hurt her ankle. Tala held onto the saddle horn tightly, but she did not pull away from Ethan's steady hands. For the first time, she allowed herself to lean slightly toward someone without expecting harm. Once she was settled, Ethan mounted behind her, keeping a respectful distance. He held the reins loosely and clicked his tongue to start the horse moving slowly. As they rode toward the ranch, Tala remained quiet, but every now and then, she glanced at Ethan with a look that mixed confusion and relief, as if kindness was something she had always believed existed only in stories, told to children the land around them stretched open and peaceful. The air warmed with the rising sun. Birds flew overhead in a scattered formation, calling out as they crossed the sky. Ethan rode with calm patience, making sure not to jolt Tala's injured leg. Halfway to the ranch, Tala finally spoke again. Her voice carried a deep, lonely truth. I never knew someone could help without wanting something in return, Ethan replied simply. People should help because it's right. That's all. Tala looked down at her hands, silent again. She appeared to be thinking, trying to understand his kind of world. A world where help did not come with fear attached. A world where a stranger could offer a blanket, water, and a gentle hand simply because another person needed it. When they reached Ethan's ranch, Tala looked at the small cabin, the quiet corral, the grazing horses. It was simple, but peaceful. She breathed slowly, as if the calmness of the place was something she had never felt before. Ethan got down and helped her carefully off the horse. She did not pull away this time. She leaned slightly on him as he guided her inside. The cabin smelled of pine wood and warm earth. A fire was already burning softly in the stove from Ethan's early morning work. He brought a blanket and draped it around her shoulders. Tala closed her eyes when the warmth wrapped around her. It felt safe, like something she had been denied for many years. You can sit here, Ethan said gently as he placed a chair for her near the stove. I'll get some warm water. We'll clean the ankle and wrap it properly. Tala looked up at him, her voice small, fragile, but full of meaning. Why are you being so kind to me? He answered with quiet honesty. Because you needed someone to be. Her eyes glistened, and she swallowed hard. No more fear, no hidden meaning, just a wounded heart learning, for the first time, what simple human kindness felt like. For the first time that day, Tala whispered, "Thank you, Ethan?" And in that moment, the quiet cabin held something new, trust, beginning to grow. Slowly, gently, like the first small flame of a fire on a cold morning. Tala woke slowly the next morning, her eyes blinking against the soft sunlight filtering through the small cabin window. For a moment she did not remember where she was. The wooden roof above her, the quiet crackle of the fire, and the warm blanket around her shoulders felt unfamiliar. She had spent so many nights sleeping under the open sky, on hard ground, or inside crowded shelters where she never felt safe. Waking in a quiet place, wrapped in warmth instead of fear, felt almost unreal. Then she heard the steady sound of someone moving in the kitchen. Ethan, the cowboy who had brought her here. The man who spoke gently, moved slowly, and looked at her with something she had rarely seen in anyone's eyes: patience. She pushed herself up a little, wincing when her ankle throbbed. The pain reminded her everything was real. She was in his cabin. He had carried her here. He had told her she was safe. Ethan noticed her movement and turned. "You're awake," he said with a soft smile. "How are you feeling?" Tala hesitated before answering. She was not used to men asking how she felt, not in a way that actually meant something. "My ankle hurts," she admitted quietly. "But everything else feels calmer." "I'm glad for that," Ethan said. He poured warm water into a small wooden bowl and brought it to her. "You should drink a little. You didn't have much strength yesterday." Tala nodded, taking the bowl with both hands. The warmth spread through her fingers and then into her chest as she drank. Ethan didn't hover or rush her. He moved around the small cabin, stirring the pot on the stove, cutting a piece of bread. Keeping his distance, but staying close enough to help as she needed it. It was strange for her. Strange and confusing. She watched him quietly, studying how he moved. There was strength in his shoulders, but his steps were soft. There was power in his hands, but they touched everything with care-water jugs, pans, blankets, horses. He did not waste words, but the ones he used were gentle. "Ethan," she said softly. He looked over. "Yes. Why did you help me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "You didn't have to." Ethan leaned against the kitchen counter, thinking for a moment. "You were hurt," he replied simply, "and it didn't feel right to leave you there alone." Tala lowered her eyes. "People sometimes leave others, even when it is wrong." Ethan nodded slowly. "But I don't want to live that way." She studied him again, trying to understand why someone would choose kindness when the world often rewarded the opposite. After a few minutes, Ethan brought her a small plate with warm bread and a few dried berries. "Eat slowly," he said. "It will help your energy come back." Tala took a small bite. The warmth from the bread filled her stomach gently, and her eyes softened with appreciation. For a while, they said nothing. The quiet inside the cabin felt peaceful, not heavy or uncomfortable. Ethan seemed to know she needed silence to think. When she finished eating, Ethan pulled a small wooden stool close to her chair. "May I look at your ankle again?" he asked. His question surprised her. Most men never ask before touching anything. The fact that he asked first made her chest move in a way she didn't fully understand, like something inside her loosened. "You can," she whispered. Ethan crouched beside her, carefully unwrapping the cloth he had tied the night before. His touch was steady, his hands warm, his movements slow. Tala tried not to flinch from the sting of pain. Ethan noticed and paused. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I'll be gentle, I know," she replied. Ethan checked the swelling, pressed lightly to see how much pain she had, then wrapped the ankle again with fresh cloth. When he finished, he looked up not at her feet, but at her face. "You'll need a few days of rest," he said. "You shouldn't walk far until the swelling goes down." Tala nodded. Her hair fell slightly over her face, but she didn't push it back. For a moment, she felt something strange, like she was allowing herself to trust someone for the first time in years. She stared at the fire for a long moment, then spoke again. "Ethan, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Were you born alone on this land?" she asked quietly. "Are you always alone?" Ethan smiled softly. "No, I wasn't born alone. I had parents once. A brother too. But life, it changes things. People go their own way, or life takes them somewhere else." He shrugged lightly. "Now it's mostly just me and the horses." Tala listened carefully. She understood loneliness too well. "Do you ever feel empty?" she asked softly. Ethan looked at her with surprising honesty. "Sometimes. But I try to fill the days with work. Animals need feeding, fences need fixing. The land keeps a man busy." "Busy is not the same as happy," she said quietly. "No," he admitted. "It's not." There was something in his voice that made Tala feel less alone. For the first time, she felt she was talking to someone who also carried invisible weight on his shoulders. After some time, Ethan spoke again. "Do you want to tell me what happened before I found you?" Tala hesitated. Her hands tightened around the blanket. Her throat felt tight. I don't know if I can." "That's all right," Ethan said immediately. "You don't have to." His simple acceptance made her chest ache in a different way, like a small part of her heart wanted to open even though fear still guarded it. She looked at him slowly. I didn't belong anywhere," she whispered. "Not in the village where I was born. Not in the shelters I found later. Everywhere I went, I was either a burden or a problem. People avoided me or treated me like I didn't matter." Her voice cracked. "I have never been treated gently. Not once." Ethan's expression softened. He didn't say pitying words. He didn't rush to comfort. He just listened, which was something she had craved more than anything. "I didn't ask anyone for help," Tala continued, "because asking always came with pain. It always meant something would be taken later." Ethan shook his head. "Not here," he said quietly. "I won't ask anything from you." Her eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. She turned her face toward the fire so he wouldn't see, but Ethan noticed anyway. He didn't move closer or try to touch her. He simply stayed there, steady and calm, like a quiet anchor. "You can rest here," he said. "You can stay until you want to decide your next step. I won't rush you." "Why?" she whispered again, almost like a child. Ethan answered with the same quiet honesty he gave her the day before. "Because you deserve a little peace. Everyone does." A long silence followed. Tala breathed slowly, letting the words settle inside her. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not with respect, not with patience, not with simple kindness. After a while, Ethan stood up. "I'll step outside for a bit," he said. "To feed the horses. If you need anything, call my name." Tala watched him walk out. The door closed softly behind him, leaving her alone in the warm cabin. She looked down at her wrapped ankle, at the blankets around her, at the quiet room that felt more gentle than any place she had known. Her heart whispered a truth she had never said out loud. Maybe, just maybe, she had finally found a place where fear did not follow her. When Ethan returned a little later, he came back with a small smile and a calm presence that filled the room like sunlight after a storm. Tala felt a kind of safety she had not known in years, a safety that made her breathe easier, speak softer, and hope quietly for a life she never believed she could have. The next morning began quietly at Ethan's ranch. The air was cool, the sky pale blue, and the scent of fresh earth drifted through the cracked window. Tala opened her eyes slowly, feeling stronger than the day before. Her ankles still hurt, but the deep, throbbing pain had softened into something she could manage. The cabin felt warm and calm again. Outside, she could hear the horses moving, hooves brushing against the dry dirt. Ethan had already been up for hours. She noticed the steady rhythm of his footsteps outside, the soft creak of the barn door, the low murmur of his voice as he spoke to the horses, the same way he spoke to her, quiet, patient, never rushing. She listened for a while, letting the gentle sounds settle inside her chest. It felt unusual to wake up in safety, to know the day wouldn't bring shouting, harsh orders, or cold indifference. It felt like her heart didn't have to protect itself so fiercely anymore. When Ethan returned and stepped inside, he carried a small tray with warm porridge and a cup of water. "Morning," he said with a soft smile. "You slept well?" Tala nodded. "I think I slept more peacefully than I ever have." "It's good," Ethan replied. "Your body needed rest. Trauma, hunger, pain, they all make a person sleep lightly. But here, you can let yourself rest." His words were simple, but they moved something deep inside her. She ate slowly, watching Ethan out of the corner of her eye. He cleaned the table, fixed a tool near the wall, and organized a few things around the cabin. He never asked personal questions, never pushed her to speak. He simply created space for her to breathe. For a woman who had lived so long without kindness, that space felt like sunlight on cold skin. After breakfast, Ethan checked her ankle again. This time, she didn't flinch when he touched it. She trusted his hands. He wrapped the cloth more securely and said, "You're healing faster than I expected. In a few days, you might be able to walk around the ranch a little." She smiled. Small, shy smile. She didn't even know she could still give. "I would like that." Ethan nodded and stood up. "I'll show you something today," he said. "Not outside yet, but something you can do while sitting." Tala's curiosity sparked. "What is it?" "You'll see." He brought over a small basket filled with soft brushes, pieces of cloth, and a small pot of natural oil. At first she didn't understand, but then he carried in a young horse saddle, dusty from use. "I was going to clean this anyway," he explained, "but I thought maybe you'd want to help." Tala stared at the saddle for a moment, unsure. "I don't know how to do this." "I'll teach you," Ethan said gently. "You don't have to be perfect." She ran her fingers over the leather, feeling its smoothness, the marks of years and travel. Ethan took a brush and demonstrated slow, circular movements to remove dust. Then he handed her a smaller brush. Tala began to clean the saddle with soft motions. At first she was stiff, afraid of doing it wrong, but Ethan never corrected her harshly. He praised small steps. "That's good. You're doing it right. Just keep your hands steady." His calm voice slowly made her more confident. For the first time in her life, someone was teaching her something without anger or judgment as they worked. She felt something new inside her, a gentle excitement. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was learning. After an hour, the saddle shined softly, looking cleaner and healthier. Tala wiped her hands on a cloth, proud of what she had done. Ethan looked at her and nodded approvingly. "You did well," he said. Her voice was small when she answered. "I never had a chance to learn anything like this. People always pushed me away." "People were wrong," Ethan said simply. "You're willing to learn, and you're patient. That's all a person needs." His words felt like warm water pouring into an empty cup. Later, Ethan made them lunch, a simple soup with vegetables and beans. Tala watched him cook, noticing how naturally he moved around the kitchen. When he quietly placed a warm bowl in front of her, she felt a strange warmth in her chest. Kind gestures were still new to her, but she was beginning to let them in. While they ate, she glanced at him and asked a question she had been holding in her heart since morning. "Ethan, why are you alone on this land? Don't you have someone?" Ethan stirred his spoon quietly. "I had a family once," he said softly. "My parents passed away a few years back. My brother left to work somewhere far. After that, it was just me." Allah listened with softened eyes. She didn't speak for a while, afraid she might say something wrong. "Does it not make you lonely?" she finally asked. Ethan looked at her with honesty. "Sometimes the land is big and quiet. Only the animals keep me company. But I got used to it." He paused. "What about you?" Tala lowered her eyes. "I never had a true home," she said quietly. "People around me changed often. Some were kind for a moment, then left. Others were cold from the beginning. I learned to keep my heart silent." Ethan nodded, understanding more than she expected. "You're not alone now," he said softly. Her breath caught at those words. She wasn't used to someone caring enough to say them as the day went on. Ethan helped her move to a sturdier chair outside near the porch. He made sure she didn't put weight on her ankle. The breeze was gentle, the sky bright, and the ranch stretched wide all around them. Tala couldn't look away from the beauty of Atopan land, rolling hills. Soft sunlight on horses moving in the corral. "This is your world," she whispered. "It feels peaceful." "It can be," Ethan replied. "But peace means nothing if you have no one to share it with." Ella turned her head slowly toward him. The wind lifted a strand of her hair, and Ethan reached out, carefully letting her see his hand before he moved it. He tucked the loose strand gently behind her ear. The touch was so light, so respectful, that Tala didn't pull away. She felt safe, seen, and valued in a way she had never felt before. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice unsteady. "For what?" Ethan asked softly. "For treating me like I matter," she said. "I didn't know people could be like this." Ethan's eyes softened. Everyone deserves to feel safe. The evening grew quieter as the sun lowered. Ethan carried her inside again, and she felt a sense of belonging she had never known. He lit the lamp, prepared a warm drink, and placed it gently in her hands. They sat together in the soft glow of the lamp. Listening to the crackle of the fire, Tala finally said the words she had been holding all day. "Ethan, I wasn't afraid of the pain in my ankle. I was afraid of people. But you make me feel like I don't have to hide." He looked at her with calm honesty. "You don't. Not here." Tala breathed slowly, feeling something warm spread through her chest. Something like trust. Something like hope. Something she thought she had lost long ago. Without thinking, she whispered, "You help me more than you know." Ethan didn't speak right away. He simply nodded, offering her the quiet assurance that made her feel stronger each day. In the peaceful glow of the cabin, Tala realized something life-changing for the first time in her life. She was not just surviving, she was healing. And the cowboy sitting across from her was the reason. Days passed slowly on the ranch, each one calmer than the last. Tala's ankle grew stronger, and with it, something inside her heart began to grow as well. She no longer woke in fear. She no longer watched the door, expecting someone to burst in against her will. She didn't flinch at every small sound. Instead, she found herself listening to the wind brushing the cabin walls. the horses softly kicking at the dirt, and Ethan humming gently as he worked outside. For the first time in her life, the world felt like it wasn't against her. One morning, Tala tried to stand on her own. Her ankles still hurt, but it was steady enough that she could put weight on it. Ethan noticed her trying. "Careful," he said, stepping forward. "You don't want to rush it. I want to try," she said softly. He nodded, but stayed close, ready to help if she stumbled. Tala held on to the side of the chair and slowly straightened herself. At first her leg trembled, but she forced herself to breathe slowly. Her bare feet touched the cool wooden floor, and for a moment she felt the strength of her body returning. "You're doing well," Ethan said, his voice quiet but warm. Tala felt her cheeks heat with pride. She took one small step, then another. The third step made her wobble, and Ethan reached out automatically, steadying her by the arm. She didn't pull away. She let his hand stay there, strong and gentle. Once she was stable again, she whispered, "You always help me right when I need it." "That's what people should do for each other," Ethan replied. Later that day, Ethan helped her walk outside for the first time since he had brought her to the ranch. The sunlight washed over her face, warm and honest. Tala closed her eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. The world smelled of earth, sun, and pine. She had never felt so close to peace. Ethan led her to the fence near the corral, letting her lean against the wooden rail. The horses grazed nearby, moving gracefully. One of them, a gentle brown mare, lifted her head and walked toward Tala. "She likes you," Ethan said with a chuckle. Tala reached out her hands slowly. The horse sniffed her fingers, then nuzzled her palm. A smile full, bright and real spread across Tala's face. Ethan noticed it and paused. He had never seen her smile that way. It warmed the entire space between them. "I didn't know animals could feel this soft," she said, stroking the mare's neck. "Horses know when someone has a kind heart," Ethan said. "They trust it." Tala looked at him quietly. "Do you trust me?" Ethan's answer was simple. "Yes." Her eyes softened. "I'm still learning how to trust myself," she whispered. "That takes time," Ethan said gently. The sun lowered in the sky as they stood together. Tala talked more freely than she ever had before. She told Ethan about the things she liked. Quiet mornings, warm blankets, the sound of running water. She told him how she used to imagine what peace might feel like. Though she never expected to find it, Ethan listened to everything, giving her his full attention as the afternoon turned to evening. Ethan helped her walk back toward the cabin. Tala stopped halfway to rest, placing her hand on his arm for balance. Ethan steadied her and waited until she could move again. She felt safe with his hand around hers, as though the world couldn't harm her as long as he was near. When they reached the cabin, Tala sat down near the fire. Ethan placed a blanket around her shoulders, then lit the lamp. The soft golden light filled the room, making everything look warm and calm. Tala watched Ethan for a while. She saw the strength in his shoulders, the patience in his eyes, the tiredness from a long life spent mostly alone. Something deep inside her stirred a tenderness she couldn't explain. "Ethan," she said softly, "when I heal, will you ask me to leave?" Her voice trembled with the fear she had hidden for days. Ethan paused, surprised. "Ask you to leave?" he repeated. "Why would I do that?" "I don't want to be a burden," Tala whispered. "You've done so much for me. I don't want to take more than I should." Ethan walked toward her slowly, lowering himself to sit beside her. His voice was calm, steady, and full of meaning. "Tala, you're not a burden. You never were." She blinked, confused, "But I don't belong anywhere." "You belong where you feel safe," Ethan said. "If you feel safe here, then this can be your place too." The room went silent for a long moment. Tala's breath caught softly. She had spent years searching for a place where she wasn't unwanted, where she wasn't judged, where she wasn't hurt. Now a simple wooden cabin on a quiet ranch felt more like home than anything she'd ever known. Her voice shook with emotion. "I want to stay," she whispered. "Not because I have nowhere else, but because I feel peaceful here." Ethan's expression softened deeply. "Then stay," he said. A weight she had carried her whole life seemed to lift off her shoulders in that instant. Tears welled in her eyes, not from fear or sadness, but from relief that someone had finally chosen her, not out of duty, but out of genuine care. After a moment, Tala laughed softly, wiping her eyes. "I never thought I could belong somewhere. Belong here as much as I do," Ethan replied. The days that followed were full of gentle routines. Tala learned small tasks around the ranch: how to wash saddles, how to feed the horses, how to carry water without spilling. Ethan taught her slowly, never raising his voice, never rushing her. She grew stronger each day, physically and emotionally. Sometimes they cooked together, standing near the stove, laughing about simple things. Sometimes they sat outside watching the sunset spread warm colors across the plains. Sometimes they talked about their past carefully, honestly, without pain taking over. One evening, after a long day of working together, Tala stood in the doorway of the cabin and watched Ethan tie up the horses for the night. A soft wind lifted her hair, and her heart felt full in a way she had never known. When Ethan finally walked inside, she met his eyes. "You gave me a new life," she whispered. "I don't know how to thank you." Ethan shook his head. "You don't need to thank me. You healed yourself. I just helped a little." Tala stepped closer. Her voice was soft, steady, and full of truth. "You helped more than you know." Ethan didn't say anything. He simply looked at her with a warmth that said everything he couldn't put into words. Tala took a slow breath. "I want to stay here. Not as a guest. Not as someone you rescued. I want to stay because this feels like home." Ethan nodded, emotion shining quietly in his eyes. "Then stay," he said again. "Stay for as long as you want." Tala felt something deep inside her settle, like a wandering spirit finally returning to a place it had been searching for all its life. That night, as they sat near the fire, the cabin felt different, warmer, fuller, alive. Two lonely hearts had found each other in the wide, quiet land. Two wounded souls had discovered healing in kindness and patience. Two people who thought they were meant to walk the world alone now found comfort in sitting together by the fire. Tala wrapped the blanket around herself and leaned back in the chair. Ethan looked at her and she gave him a gentle smile, a smile full of trust, peace, and the beginning of something deeper. For the first time in her life, Tala knew she was home. And for the first time in many years, Ethan felt like he was no longer alone. Their story didn't end with a loud moment. It ended softly with warmth, trust, and a future quietly forming between them, one day at a time.